Well, folks, here we are once again, coming from my home here in Dormont, Pennsylvania. I'm here today with another alumni of the Ireland Institute of Pittsburgh, Sean Reynolds. Sean, it's great to see you. How you doing?
Good, Jim. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well, thanks. Man, I can't believe it's been. Well, you said 20 years since the last time I saw you. I guess
Roughly.
we
Well,
got to meet briefly in the Europa Hotel. That might have been 15 years ago. You weren't long back, I think,
no.
from your visit to Pittsburgh. But it's great to see you. And first of all, congratulations to you on achieving your master's degree. Was it at Queens?
Ulster,
Oh,
Ulster
University of
University.
Ulster. Congratulations. That's great. Congratulations. That's a
Thank you.
long time coming, and I'm sure that it took a lot of work. And I'm glad to see that you came out of it okay.
Yeah.
But first of all, I just want to, as I mentioned previously, we're delighted to be catching up with alumni of the Institute, people who were out in Pittsburgh on work experience and through various programs. If I may, I'd just like to get started, Sean, by
Yeah.
asking you a little bit about where you're from. I know it's
Okay.
Belfast, but maybe you can kind of tell me a little about Belfast, especially
Yeah.
back in
Yeah.
2000, 2001, when you were thinking about coming out here.
Yeah. 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 Well, I grew up in North Belfast, Jim. I came to the States in 2002. Where I grew up in North Belfast back in those days would have been the place was known as the Murder Mile because
The Murder Mile.
most people killed in the Northern Ireland Troubles were killed in a sort of 1 mile radius in North Belfast. So I grew up on that one mile radius in North Belfast. So I left school at an interesting time. The Good Friday Agreement had just recently been signed. So the economic prosperity that came with the GFA in later days hadn't really arrived in Belfast yet. So when I left school, there wouldn't have been the opportunities in Belfast back in 2002 for people like me that there would be possibly now. Although it's not perfect, by no means perfect now. But so I was basically unemployed back in 2002. I was actually made redundant from a local factory that had closed down back in Belfast. There would be a lot of incentives for foreign sort of factories to come in. It would give local people jobs. Once the funding had evaporated, the factory would leave. I think that happened a lot in Belfast back in the day. So I seen the advertisement, the newspaper, because there was practically no online back in 2002.
Right.
Believe it or not, I think emails were only really starting. I seen the advertisement, live and work in the United States for 3 years, and I thought, do you know what? This seems like an opportunity. So hence I arrived in Pittsburgh maybe 6 months later.
And when you got to Pittsburgh, remind me again, Sean, first of all, where you were placed, where you were working in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I was placed in the Baptist Homes
Oh
of
yeah,
Western Pennsylvania
right.
initially as a maintenance guy. So even me growing up in North Belfast on the Catholic side of the interface was a bit daunting. The Baptist Homes, but no, but yeah, that was it. The Baptist Homes, great place to work, lovely people, a great opportunity, and it gave me some self sufficiency that maybe I never had before I'd arrived in Pittsburgh.
Right, right. And did you stay at the Baptist homes the whole 3 years?
Well, Jim, I stayed in Pittsburgh for close to 2 years.
Okay,
And
okay.
then I got the job opportunity in Ireland,
I
which
see.
made
Right.
me come home.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for the job offer I got in Ireland, I would have stayed the whole 3 years. But
Right,
I was in the Baptist homes the whole time I was in Pittsburgh.
right. And what was the job offer that came from Belfast?
It was just an administrative job with the Northern Ireland Civil Service,
Oh,
basically,
okay.
which was a job I applied for. I wasn't necessarily interested in, and I don't think I would have taken it. It was just back then, all the jobs were public sector.
Yeah.
You either walked into the council, you were lucky enough to get a job on a building site, or you worked in the public sector. So I got that job offer and I thought, you know what, I'm going to take it. So, and that's another thing as well. I possibly, if it wasn't for Pittsburgh, I may not even have taken the job in the civil service, because I think back then maybe, you know, my social conditioning was maybe not to be open to the government. So I think with the kick in with the GFA, the Good Friday Agreement, and the cultural experience in the States for the 2 years, I think that actually made me open minded enough to maybe give an opportunity like that the go. Whereas if I wouldn't have left Belfast, I don't think I would have even applied for that job.
Right. Right.
Never mind accepted it. So I applied for that job initially before I left, because you would go on a waiting list. But then I had to do like an aptitude test as well, which my parents, I don't know how I got that sorted, but I accepted the job and I went back to Ireland. And I don't think I would have done it without the Institute.
Right. Well, you did mention the cultural experience that that Pittsburgh exposed you to. Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, as someone who defined himself as maybe a bit more closed-minded as a Catholic from North Belfast and the Murder Mile,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
what the cultural exchange was, and
yeah.
how it impacted you.
Well, back then, I 110% would not have had any friends from the other side of the community. It gave me the opportunity to meet some guys who were from a different background, who I'm still friends with to this day.
Yeah. Good for you.
So I made lifelong friends in the States. I also think as well, working in the Baptist homes, obviously it was an old people's home, but one thing that really struck me about the Baptist homes was that you would have a priest that would come in and give a service to all the old age pensioners. You would have a Protestant minister, a vicar, reverend, whatever their background was, maybe even a rabbi on some occasions. And all the residents would have a cross denominational prayer service. So it actually didn't matter whether it was a Catholic priest, Protestant, a rabbi. All the residents would still go to the prayer meeting or the sort of service, which I found quite interesting,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
also, living in Pittsburgh as well, it was, people from, I don't know, Bosnian backgrounds, they were the recent arrivals in the States. So there was a sort of, I don't know, a cultural similarity with people that were escaping the Yugoslav civil war.
Yeah.
Back then,
Yep.
you would meet Americans who were from Italian background, German background, but everybody was American. And it was quite interesting how so many people from so many different walks of life could live as one and not, be in conflict all the time. I
Right.
understand recently in the States things have got a bit divisive. I mean,
Yeah.
quite scary. But I mean, my time in the States, it certainly opened my mind. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, very good. And then so Pittsburgh 2002, 2004, back to Ireland, back to Belfast, then a job with the civil service. And then what? What's your life been since? What's give us
Yeah,
a quick summary of what happened to you between the admin job and today.
yeah. Well, as I said, I've always self praise is no praise, Jim. So I don't really like chatting about myself. But I think my particular age, I just sort of there was a time period where half my life was practically in conflict and half my life was outside of conflict. So when I left school, I felt, and I particularly felt this frustration after living in the States, that maybe the opportunities that were coming into Belfast, say around 2005, 6, 7, 8, they weren't available to me when I left school. So after getting a life experience in the States, maybe getting some ambition, the cultural experience, it also gave me the confidence that even as an older guy, say about 28, that I had a secure job, I had a secure office job, but I sort of felt that I wanted to achieve more, and that inspiration or sort of motivation I definitely feel was created from my experience in the States.
Well, that's
So I felt after living in the States I can achieve more.
mhm.
So after a few years working in the civil service, which would never be my choice of job. It was just literally, I think it was the economy back then. It was public sector, whereas in the north of Ireland, Northern Ireland, uh, there's been a drive to get more private sector work. So I felt I could achieve more. So I went to college and university then after the office job because again I felt it gave me a desire to achieve more. It made me feel also confident enough that I could achieve more. And not only confident enough, I also met I think some like-minded guys in the States that I wouldn't have met if I hadn't went to the States, the likes of Patrick, an old friend, Keith Russell, who were guys who
Right.
all came back from the States and done well and actually drove each other on as well, because it was like Patrick was the first to go to university. He was like, Sean, you need to get into university. You can do this. So we all sort of supported each other in our quest to achieve more.
Very good. Very good. Oh, that's a great summary about where you were and where you've come. And so you get your degree, and not only that, you went on and got a master's degree, and you also, in all that time, you were doing some camera work.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
can you talk
Yeah.
a little bit about all that specifically?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, when I left university, I would mostly focus on sort of promotional videos, so to speak. But I think the biggest success in regards to the university was me and a few guys. We just made a small documentary in regards to an incident during the Troubles in Belfast, and it it was pretty successful. We won a few awards. It was shown in the Berlin Film Festival, Bristol, London. It was shown in quite a few parts of the world. We won a few awards as well. We won an RTS, which is it's pretty significant here, and it could open a lot of doors as well. It did open doors, but yeah, so we had some success there. And again, it wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have went to the States and I wouldn't have met people like Patrick, Keith, other guys who through the institute we were all able to drive each other on.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great story, and appreciate you reminding us of all the things that sometimes we don't even see, but we hear the stories from guys like you. What are you doing now?
Well, obviously with COVID, it's strange times.
Yeah.
So I just graduated there. I haven't actually graduated yet. I submitted my final work. I got my uh, I got my results 4 weeks ago, on the 11th of October. So I've got the master's degree. So I haven't actually graduated yet. So I'm currently on this future leaders program where I'm chatting with you guys, and I'm in a transitional period, moving away from the camera work. So I'm just basically in the process of getting back into work, but that's been complicated, obviously, with the COVID, Jim, as it's led us all into a bit of unstable time. So hopefully, in a few weeks, I'll have a placement, and I'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah. And the placement will be an opportunity to practice what you've learned, sort of like a
Yeah.
work placement in one of the organizations. Is that what the
Yeah, yeah. There's a few options at the minute. Literally, when I get off the call, I'll send off an email about these placements. Uh, my experience is very diverse. I've lived and worked in the States, which give me great life experience, made me open to other people. It actually improved my English as well, funnily enough.
Oh, good.
But not that I can't speak English, but I mean, before I went to the States, I was pure Belfast. I mean,
Yeah.
people probably still probably can't understand me, but I know 20 years ago they would not have understood me. So I've worked for myself as well. And I think I'm just starting to come, even though I'm 41 now, I'm just starting to come full circle where I feel I'm here, ready to come full circle, just get back into the work. And I would like to get into some sort of maybe start up my own business in the future, to
Yeah.
be honest, Jim.
Mhm. Very good. Well, listen, Sean, it has been so good to catch up with you. And you said something to me earlier that I shouldn't laugh, but it is a little bit funny. You said if it wasn't for Pittsburgh, you would be. Do you
Yeah.
want to answer that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there was a time in my life, I grew up in an interface area, you know, I, I wouldn't consider myself a violent person, but growing up in a violent environment in my formative younger years, is there a possibility that I could have got into big trouble if I would not have got out of Belfast at the time I did? There's a big possibility, and you know that's just how it was. I wasn't a criminal by any means, but was there a potential I could have fell into big trouble where there would have been big ramifications? Yes, 100%, 100%. And I mean, would I be sitting here now with a master's degree? I've traveled all over the world. I've been in Lebanon, I've been in Egypt just after the revolution. I've traveled all over Europe. I've been all over the world as well. Would I have done any of that if I would not have got the life experience in the United States through you guys? I don't think I would have. And I can categorically say that.
Yeah. Well, that's heavy and deep, and appreciate the shout out to what we're trying to do. And I appreciate you coming on today, Sean. Again, ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Belfast, Sean Reynolds. Sean, good seeing you, and I'm sure we'll talk real soon. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. God
Thank you.
bless.